Insurance or EQC payments.
Mr Speaker.
I call the Honourable Minister Jerry Brown.
Well, Mr Speaker, this afternoon the House has been regaled with a number of terribly inaccurate statements from members of the opposition, and I'm going to deal with them back to front. So the first point is the government has been deeply involved in recovery in Christchurch since the outset. And there was a comment made by the Honourable Ruth Dyson in which she claimed that I had instructed the City Council not to have an audit on their books because it might affect the government. Well, Mr Speaker, any analysis of the documentation that Ms Dyson has will show that it was, in fact, the Council themselves who were facing significant uncertainty about the interest rates that they might have to pay on lending that existed pre-earthquake. And they knew that they had some expenses that were coming. It's been long established that there is a cooperative arrangement between government and local bodies. It's roughly a 60-40 split on horizontal infrastructure, but no one knew exactly what the problem was. So I'm pleased that the opposition has said that the Skirt team are doing a good job. I believe they are. I believe they are. And I'm very pleased that I was the minister who negotiated that particular body coming together. They actually, under the structure, Mr Cosgrove, for your information, which you should have known because it's been provided to you, is that there is an alliance board, there is a governance group, and over and above that there is the minister, quite simply. And so, Mr Speaker, what we have is an opposition, and particularly opposition MPs who know that they're not going to win their seats back and are now trying to create an environment that essentially is based on mistruths. Mr Speaker, it was unreasonable for the City Council to have to go through an audit process in the uncertain environment that they were in, and the Council unanimously voted to take that particular course of action. There was no direction from the Crown for them to do so. The next point, sir, was the suggestion that Sarah itself is an organisation that is taking up too much of the government resource and should in fact start to pare itself back. So there you have a totally contradictory argument right from the start. They're not doing enough, let's not make them do any more. But Mr Speaker, can I point out that their current budget is about 0.75% of the government's total spend in Christchurch. It's about 0.25% of the expected cost of Christchurch across all sectors. So, sir, I think they're doing a very good job through the management of recovery programs, of community engagement, of working through the council where they've got difficulties, etc., etc. Mr Speaker, then there was this issue about the housing raised by our friend Mr O'Rourke. I note, sir, that if you don't want to know the truth in any circumstance, don't hang around to listen to it. And that would be a doctrine that is clearly taken up by the last two speakers in this debate. It's unfortunate when we get to factual information, it gets in the road of the story, so they take off. Well, sir, right now, this instant, in this House, I'm able to show that there are 1,182 houses in Christchurch City for rent, and that half of those are less than half the rent that Mr. O'Rourke was talking about a few minutes ago. So there you have another construct of mistruth being thrown into the House, etc., etc. Mr Speaker, the government has engaged in quite a significant amount of activity in trying to alleviate some housing issues in Christchurch. In the end, it will be the build that gets there, and part of that is the land use recovery plan, but a huge part of it is the work that EQC are doing to get people back in their houses. And then, sir, there is the work that the Honourable Dr Nick Smith has undertaken with the Housing Accord, with the temporary villages at New Brighton, in Linwood and in Kaiapoi, the temporary accommodation, sir, at Rangers Park that eventually will come into the market for sale, and, sir, the opportunities that he is currently pursuing out at Awatea, where there will also be several hundred several hundred affordable houses built. But in addition to that, 700 new state houses built in Christchurch over the next 2 years, and 5,000 of them reoccupied, Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Jerry Brown.
5,000 of those houses reoccupied as the Housing Corp brings them back up to a much higher standard than they were before for the occupants. In addition, sir, of course, there is the problem. The Christchurch City Council always railing against housing issues. The Labor members on that council particularly getting on their high horse, but in fact the Labor chairman of the Housing Committee doing absolutely nothing. A mere 5 houses repaired, I understand, over the last 4 years out of the 250 that they've got. It's unbelievable. And of course the EQC have paid out. The EQC have paid them nearly $30 million so far. $30 million for 5 repairs. I think that's a really, really good result. One that the Labor Party, of course, would be impressed by, but I think is utterly pathetic. Mr Speaker, Mr O'Rourke talked about the thousands of people living in Christchurch in broken homes and cold circumstances. Sir, over the last few winters, we've partnered with NGOs and we've had our own programs running where we look for people who might be in difficult circumstances that have not been reported. This year there was with WeCan, what I think has been a very good program. They call them the Lost 900. They went out to see who they were. They thought there might be 900 houses out there in trouble. They found a much, much lesser number where there were some instances of trouble, and so all of those are being dealt with. Across the whole time, around 20,000 heat appliances put into Christchurch homes. No questions asked. You're cold, you get warm with this new heating appliance. Mr Speaker, then there was the issue of flooding raised by Mr Bloom there. Unbelievable sort of comments made about that. Well, I can say to this House, on the 5th of March this year, the government was in town, the Prime Minister, myself and other ministers like Nicky Wagner, etc. They're saying to the Council, we want to help, what do we do? And I've got to say, we're still waiting for the full details. Last week we got the paper saying, could we extend the temporary accommodation assistance available to these people? We've done it. And that really also gives a lie to a lot of what Mr O'Rourke was saying, because we do have temporary accommodation assistance at very, very good levels available to everybody regardless of income, sir. Then there is the Canterbury Earthquake Temporary Accommodation Service, CTAS. There is the residential service, etc., etc. It goes on and on. Good things happening as Canterbury works itself to get itself out of a difficult circumstance. Then we come to the beauty of them all. Clayton Cosgrove, having railed for the last 4 years about all sorts of things. Yes, I'm the only one who sees it. I'm the only one who sees it. But it is, let me say, exceptionally ironic in my expression. Mr Speaker, railed for the last 4 years on all sorts of issues, never come once to my office with a constituent issue that bore any resemblance to the public position he was taking. Not one in 4 years. And Mr Speaker, then we come to the issues. He's saying there are 10,000 people out. See, they don't like it. I tell you what, when you're losing, you struggle. When you're losing, you struggle. Mr Speaker, he's saying 10,000 people wanting to go to court because I think his term was that they are outstanding claims. Well, Mr Speaker, a claim is outstanding until the keys are handed over to the occupant. A claim is outstanding until the keys are handed to an occupant. Mr Speaker, I've got some figures in my pocket here that comes from some of the houses that are being built in Christchurch at the moment. And there are hundreds that are in that category, almost ready to hand over. There are thousands in the process of being built, and there are thousands where people are making choices about what they have in their plans. And it's not unusual, someone's getting a new house built, that they might say, well, hold on, you're up for this much. If we put this extra in, can we have an extra bedroom? Can we have an ensuite? Can we have a flasher kitchen? Whatever. Why wouldn't they? I think it's a good thing. And sir, to say that there are 10,000 people out there as outstanding claims waiting to go to the court is a gross exaggeration. The numbers, sir, for people going to the courts are exceptionally low. And it's not because they don't get a hearing, because the courts have bent over backwards to create a bench. There have in fact, sir, been only 270 cases out of all those thousands, 170,000 damaged homes that have gone to the court with some application. Many of those have been settled. And, Mr Speaker, I've got it, Mr Speaker. Well, here you go. Truth beaten by the bell.
Right, the question is that vote Canterbury earthquake recovery stand part of the schedule. Those of that opinion will please say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honourable members, the question now is that vote transport stand part of the schedules. I call the honourable member David Bennett.
Thank you, Mr Chair. It's a pleasure to speak on vote transport, and this is one of the good news stories that we will be promoting during the campaign. And this weekend, the Minister made another